a very good morning to you. We have Jack Okula, who is a constitutional lawyer. Good morning to you.
Morning,
and many
Sharon.
thanks for joining us. We also have Norman Magaya, who is the head of the Code Secretariat. Good morning to you, gentlemen, and many thanks for joining us. So we've seen this very controversial, amendments, as it were, and it has passed now. Maybe I'll start with you, Jack. We have seen the opposition declaring that this is an unconstitutional bill. What is your statement on that?
Oh, thanks a lot, Sharon, for having me. When the Code and my friend Norman is here, who to tell us the specific article of the Constitution that this amendment infringes on, when they say that the amendment is unconstitutional, we are waiting for Code to tell us which article of the Constitution has been infringed. But allow me to say one thing and put everything into perspective. One, that in 2007, and I was a voter, I remember that one of the requirements was that you should go to the polling station with your voting card.
Right.
So you register as a voter, there is a voter's card with which you will go to the station. Otherwise, when you have your ID and you are registered as a voter and you don't have your voter's card, you'll be turned down. You will not be voting. And when IBC came into place and we were registering towards 2012, this idea was done away with. And what was the crust of that? What was the objective of that? One, we are looking at the Constitution of Kenya, and particularly Article 38. And the sub-article 3 will tell you that every citizen, every adult citizen, so the keyword is every adult citizen should be allowed without unreasonable restriction to vote.
Right.
So the instructive word is unreasonable, without any unreasonable restriction. And one of these unreasonable restrictions is that besides carrying your ID, you would also be carrying your voter's card to the polling station. And let us remind ourselves that although in the 21st century, we say that all rights are equal, but then the truth is that all or not all rights are equal. They may be equal, but there are rights that are more equal than others.
Right.
So political rights, such as the right to vote, the right to be a candidate or to vie for a public office, is such a first degree and fundamental right that you can never limit it with any law without any justifiable reason.
Right.
And I fail to understand how when you vote using the electronic method and you have a complementary method, which is the manual method, that becomes unconstitutional. Maybe my friend would enlighten me further and tell me how this is unconstitutional. In my view, and we'll interrogate this as we proceed, I believe that the state and state agencies must take all steps, all that pertains to ensure that every Kenyan adult citizen should be allowed to vote without any restriction whatsoever, nor even a shadow of a human being.
Right.
If such a phrase exists.
And because we want to understand exactly the bone of contention as Code has it, and of course it has largely been with Section 44 of this amendments. And Norman, we've seen Code pronouncing this bill as unconstitutional, and we want to understand what about it, the Code.
I think first of all, to frame the issue and term it as unconstitutional is to miss the point.
Right.
One, we've said that Parliament is on recess. And when Parliament is on recess, the standing orders, and these standing orders are made pursuant to Article 98 of the Constitution. The standing orders guide the manner in which the House may be recalled for a special session. Standing Order 29 and Standing Order 61 are instructive on which matters will form the business of the day to warrant the House being recalled from recess for a special sitting. We are not talking about an ordinary sitting as encapsulated under Article 96. We're talking about a special session. And that special session the matters to be canvassed in a special session are set out in Standing Order 61.
Right.
And under Standing Order 61, all those matters listed there are issues derived from the Constitution. Matters of national security, matters of national emergency, all of them are derived from the Constitution.
And we saw the High Court pronouncing itself on the same, on the special sitting.
The matter is coming up on 9th for hearing, which is Tuesday next week. So we will not, on Monday actually. Yeah, and we will be able to address court extensively on this issue.
Right.
But the question is, which my friend misses again, is to say that how is manual backup unconstitutional? Nobody has framed the question of manual backup as a constitutional question. It has been framed as a statutory question. When we went to discussions at Windsor during the Joint Select Committee,
right,
it was very clear to us that the process of identification of voters in this country is key, and the Kriegler report is instructive on the same.
Right.
Is key to ensure a credible election. And why is it a fundamental question in the process of election? Is that you will only be able to know how many people turned up to vote in the election if you can definitively identify these people at the polling station.
Right.
And we say that an identity card should only give you access to the polling station. Once you are in the polling station, unlike in 2012 when the only biometric used for identification was the thumbprint. This time round, the law is extensive. It talks of retina, it talks of earlobes, it talks of
the
voice
biometrics.
visuals. Surely you cannot miss any of this. The only voter capable of missing all these features is a dead voter. So those advancing the view that there are voters who will not be identified through this process are actually talking about resurrecting dead voters. And the Kriegler report actually says that in 2007, 1.3 million dead voters cast votes in the 2007 election.
But their argument has been that, you know, it's an electronic system, and like any other system, this can fail.
Actually, the law itself, the Election Laws Amendment Act, is instructive on a backup to the electronic system.
Right.
And we say that when technology fails, it should fail safe. It fails safe if you have provided an alternative electronic means that acts as a backup.
Right.
So manual is not an alternative to an electronic system per se.
Okay, let's...
And the law itself says that there should be an inbuilt alternative of backing up this information.
Allow me to have a short rejoinder on this.
All right.
One, and I respect that this matter is before the court. The court is to pronounce itself on the same on the 9th, and if we delve into the merits and demerits, then it would be sub judice.
Right.
But the court has also pronounced itself on this, that we are not looking at the procedural issues as to how the National Assembly sat or did not sit, and when you delve into such matters, then you lose the substratum of the issue. The issue that we have before us, which is the main idea to me, is whether or not when you have a complementary voting system, which is the manual system, it would amount to unconstitutionalism. And thank God he's talked about the Joint Select Parliamentary Committee. That went to
CORD is also now
July.
agitating for its reinstatement now.
Yeah, precisely.
Right.
One of the reasons why there was that select committee is when we want a fair and free election, and which is administered in a secure, efficient, transparent, verifiable, and accountable manner.
Right.
Now, the question that we needed to ask whether the electronic system would, meet the ingredients of the elections that we want in 2017. And the Kriegler report was clear that, yes, we needed to have fundamental reforms. Much as we have not reached there, and I can assure you that such reforms have been there, and part of the reform was that we had a select committee that went to Naivasha, and they had their report, and this report was adopted, and there were 3 bills to that effect. The question is, the electronic system, is it sufficient as a country that we would solely rely on that? When CORD went to court, the presidential petition, Raila Amolo Odinga and 2 others versus the 5 others versus the IBC and 3 others. One of the issues, and I want to condemn my brother to go and read paragraph 233 of that ruling. That was saying that, one, if you rely on manual voting to buttress the electronic system, assuming that the electronic or that the BVR fails, and then you resort to manual, that in itself and of itself would not amount to that election, that the conduct of these elections would be nullified.
All right.
That would not be the part.
All right.
Then I would also bring his attention to some of
Jack
the
first-
instances.
And before
you are
you
mixing
take
up
on that,
issues.
Norman, we just want
Sharon,
to see.
it's very good that I don't just allow him to get away with this.
All right.
One, it will be good for Jack to know that the Kriegler report was very specific in its recommendations. It says do away with the black books. It was a direct recommendation, unanimous, unlike the other recommendations where there were minority and dissenting recommendations. This one was a unanimous recommendation of the Kriegler committee.
Right.
And the finding was that the black books that were used by the Electoral Commission of Kenya was what gave rise to ghost voters in the register. And he said, do away with it. What did IEBC do? Do away with the black book, introduce green books. 2, in 2013, the only basis for use of technology in election was by virtue of Regulation 44 of the election regulations.
Right.
The Elections Act itself did not speak to technology. It was a discretionary issue. So the only way the Commission will employ technology was through by virtue of Regulation 44. That now there is now a fundamental departure through the Election Laws Amendment Act that now provides for a statutory framework for use of technology in elections.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, a big argument has been that this House, the Senate, has really not really got to debate on the substance of these amendments in the sense that they voted merely on, party lines. And so right now we want to just listen in on a bit of that procedure just to see how this worked, and then we can continue on that debate on the substance of that debate.
Or any member has a right to attach his views to the report which has been adopted by the committee. So the committee adopted this report through a vote of 10 against 6. I think that should be. And unfortunately, I can also say that the voting was along party lines. I would have preferred the voting to have been along ideas, concepts, and whatnot. So that some are voting for one side, the ODM is voting for one side, some the Jubilee are voting on the other side, so that we come up code which includes Ford Kenya, code which includes Wiper, code which includes ODM. I would have liked it. In other words, I would have liked the vote to have taken place, but in a mix, more focused on the pros and cons of the ideas.
Can you be trusted? Even if a marriage that you enter in a church and after 3 months you say, we cannot live together, something is wrong with you. You need a doctor. And the person who brought this bill to us in this Senate, that person needs a doctor, whoever it is. We can't be seen to be changing our minds like little, I don't know, even animals have memory, but it looks like we don't have memory of what we have done. Mr. Speaker, I plead that this bill, if we pass it the way it is, this House, we are calling ourselves the superior House, the superior chamber, and yet we are not even prepared to change a comma from the National Assembly. You are just becoming a conveyor belt. Bure kabisa.
I'm not in this house to please them. I'm not in this house courtesy Senator Orengo or courtesy Senator Wetangula. I'm here as an independent senator, Mr. Speaker, and Jubilee senator, and I'm not here to police code. Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, to their very great disappointment, I am going to support this bill.
Mr. Speaker, we are proposing in this report some way forward on this matter. And Mr. Speaker, Article 83(3) is very clear that you cannot deny of the Constitution. You cannot deny a voter the right to vote. You cannot deny a voter. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, if at all an electronic process were to fail, and you deny a voter the right to fail, you'd be acting against the Constitution.
Order, members, the results of the division are as follows. The ayes 24, the nays 19, abstentions nil. The ayes have it.
Right, so we're seeing some arguments on the floor there that Senate is now being seen as a conveyor belt. And Norman, I want to come to you on this because we didn't see the House really debate much, and we had CORD having some amendments and some proposals to amend the bill as it was. What is your feeling on that?
Sharon, the last time I was here, I was very emphatic that we are only holding fort, but we knew that nothing much was going to come out of the Senate.
Right.
Because they say that this bill is not a product initiated by either the National Assembly or the Senate. This bill is a product conceived in State House with the directions for the House to rubber stamp it. I said it very clearly, and we cannot run away from it. And that's why I said it was foolhardy for anybody to urge the president not to sign it, yet it is the president's own baby. He cannot throw his own baby away.
But now it's a game of numbers.
And we said that, first of all, the Senate itself is not properly seized of this issue. A process that is tainted with illegality from the very start cannot be cured by the Senate. Even the attempt to subject it to public participation was nothing but an act of public relations to try and hoodwink people and take the temperatures down. We never lost focus of the issue that nothing much was going to come out of it. Because first of all, the manner in which the sessions in the National Assembly were convened itself contravened the very standing orders that guide the House. And I think there is jurisprudence, sufficient jurisprudence, that if a process of enacting the law is flawed, the product of that process is also flawed. And courts have held so in this jurisdiction and in other jurisdictions. So, and you cannot expect that the Senate will cure the flaws that emanated from the National Assembly. First of all, the first session is convened on a Tuesday. It aborts because of time. No resolution is reached. In the dead of the night, after the Speaker says the House is adjourned to 24th, the House adjourns at 8:55 p.m. At 11 p.m. in the night, the Speaker issues another Gazette notice.
All right, and before I bring in Jack on what next you can do, what is your next plan now?
One, we have a press conference this afternoon to be addressed by the opposition principals to provide a framework in which we are going to engage on this matter.
All right.
Secondly, we have convened an all-encompassing opposition conference on Wednesday next week.
All right.
And a decision on the way forward on this issue will be undertaken then. But what we have said is that it is either electronic or bust. There's no middle ground on it.
All right, hold that thought. And Jack, we'll come back to you because we still want to talk about constitutionally what the opposition has, the options that they have on the way forward. We still have you in studio.